Welcome to the Chapter 416 podcast that jumps from storytelling to a little bit of competitive information and then back to camaraderie, because that's what we like to focus on. My name is Pajama Pants. That is Brad Chester.
Scott.
And we are very happy to be back today talking about our favorite thing, which is Warhammer 40K.
I'm
And
psyched.
you're always psyched, though. What's
I
new?
know, but I'm psyched about different shit. I'm like a small child. You give me new stuff all the time, and I'm like, ooh, you're like Brad's misbehaving. Shake something in front of him, and I'm like, oh, okay, I'm not mad anymore.
I'm super pumped for new stuff. I'm actually really excited for the stuff that we have coming out soon. Right now, around the corner here is this whole Emperor's Children
All
release.
all the Emperor's Children
And
release. Well, we've got all 4K Scott coming this summer, and we've got. I think GW hits it sometimes, misses sometimes. I think these limited edition pieces, I think they're cool. I've gotten a couple of them at 40K Nerd. They have cool lore. They've got little knickknacks. They have shiny things inside of them. But I love the fact that they have if you get all four, they come together. There's you get a quarter of metallic chaos medallion. I just like that. I think it's sweet. And
you're
I've
like
also
little
played
tchotchkes. You're like a tchotchke guy.
I'm ridiculous about it, but I I like the fact of what they're doing, and I think they've learned from their past mistakes. They're doing some really cool shit. They learned it in Eldar. They started with Eldar. I really, really like the fact that they put different points for Yanari Dark Eldar shit. Because what they kept doing is they kept jacking up codexes. Codex was
Yeah.
doing, but I shared a unit with it, and you got nerfed, and I got nerfed. I wasn't winning same way you were winning, and they're fixing that. You're getting
Yeah. The same unit cannot have the same points if the overall army rules and stratagems and all that stuff are different.
100.
You have to make sure that the points for the units are taking into consideration all of the other abilities and options that unit has in the codex it's being used. So we should see the same kind of stuff in these new books. I'm hoping that, I'm hoping that the Emperor's Children book will have a bunch of options of Slanesh demons, and you'll have different point costs for them, and they'll benefit from the Slanesh Codex rules and the Slanesh Codex faction. I'm really hoping for a lot of synergies of I have a Slanesh unit and I have a unit of fiends, and there's a cool thing where maybe it makes the opponent strike last, or maybe it gives the unit better abilities, or maybe they can run and charge, or whatever the case may be. I'm just hoping for a lot more synergy and for the units to work together in a way where you can have the certain demons in the codex have certain points, and then you can have the regular demon codex have different points for the same units.
I like that quite a bit, because you can also have, if you have limitations to it's just that book, you can make crazy powerful, specific rulings on stuff, as opposed to going, well, we can't make these guys too cool because they're also in this book. We have them in demons. You're like, no, they're this in this book specifically.
Yeah.
They're
Well,
also
Auspec's tactics, huge shout out to
crushed.
him per usual, building a PowerPoint deck that summarized all of the leaks off of Reddit. So yeah, it's great.
Man on that.
Yeah.
I'm really
Custom robots.
I think Emperor's Children have the potential to be the most competitive of the armies, period, because they have historically all the time been a very balanced army, which is one of the things that you need in 40K. They have super fast movement. They can shoot. They can hand to hand. They've got a lot of special rules, fights first, and things of that nature to give you that advantage. But you can be anywhere on the board, and you can fight in all of the distances. Melee, close range firepower, plus long distance firepower. Looks like they're going to have all of those. Plus, they also have a centerpiece, which I really do think is cool. The new Fulgrim model is bananas
Awesome.
for him, of whether he's going to be really good or not. If you tell me that a guy that moves 16 isn't going to be awesome,
Yeah, he's
but
definitely going to be awesome.
I mean, Agrod's a menace on the tables because, he
Yeah.
moves 14 and he can get that 16 with a +2. So he can, it looks like he's going to fight first. Huge, of course, -1 to hit. Leadership tests get planned, because all of a sudden you're like, I'm going to shoot this. And you're like, well, not if Timmy and the las cannons don't fall back. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I've always resonated really highly with Fulgrim in general. I feel like when you listen to when you read the books, and I don't mean to go on a tangent right away. I know you're breaking down the rules, so we can come back to them real quick.
You're 100%.
But I've always just thought that Fulgrim was such a a unique character. If you read about him in the Great Crusade, you read about him in the pre-heresy books. And then, I mean, I love when he actually turns into a demon.
My only problem with Fulgrim is he gets possessed a lot. Like he gets tricked all the time,
Sounds a
falling
lot
in on
like
trap.
you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a Primarch, bro. I'm like a servitor. You would think he would be quicker to do it. I just like this dude. I mean, he killed Bobby G. Yes, he got res, but he had to get resed. He's super. In his demon form, you haven't got a ton of it in the last stories. He showed up. You know what I mean? They talked about Bobby G going down and all that. And
Yep.
he's got multiple Primarch kills, by the way. I don't know if you're counting, but it counts. It's just like assassination of the game. He killed Bobby G. He came back, but you're still getting that assassination point on it. And I'm pretty sure that Ferrus Magnus is not coming back unless you're going to duct tape his head to his body because he clean chopped that off.
Yeah, there's sword like,
Well,
you know, Lucius. Lucius is another amazing character. I know it doesn't really resonate on the tabletop. I think
oh,
he's had good rules in certain editions, and for the most part, he hasn't been anywhere near like what he is in the story. Like in the stories, like, you know, there's no way you're landing a blow on Lucius, like
well, he
period. You know,
also
like
he doesn't matter. You know, Lucius is a great sword master and he's lost multiple times, but it doesn't matter because he takes over your body once he dies. You're like, oh, you won, but nah, you're just the new Lucius.
but even before that, like if you watch, I think it's so funny that like I read a book, I remember the way I pictured the book. And then I say, oh, if you watch, you know, Istvan 3, the battle. It's like there's nothing to watch. There isn't a video on that, right? But it's
In
in my
my
head. Yeah,
mind.
in my mind brain, my mind palace. Even then, you know, way before Dean, like way before he was even impacted with chaos, really, he's fighting on Istvan 3 and he doesn't even realize that they're getting betrayed. It's like all new to him. He's got to like pick a side, like in the moment. So it's really, I think it's really like, I don't know. I've always resonated with world eaters, of course. I love world eaters, but for completely
Dude,
different reasons.
I love
So
his
it's
fall though.
funny. Well,
His
it's really
fall
funny that
is
you would
just
like
a
both.
well, no, because I like a lot of different things. I'm a
No,
eclectic
no, I
cat.
find it interesting for me that I like both the world eaters who are
Oh,
just
they're
savage
wildly different.
barbarians
Yeah.
and the Slanesh who are basically like the Eldar of chaos, kind of like super elegant, super precise, super detail oriented. You know, they're just completely different. And most people who do like chaos tend to like one type of chaos. It's like diehard Nurgle people, diehard Tzeentch people, diehard world eaters people. I actually don't think, from my experience at least, I think Emperor's Children, it's maybe because they don't have a book, and maybe that's why my perception is this way. I don't feel like they're really the favorite usually. It's demon players who like Emperor's Children. They love taking like the keepers and stuff.
The paint scheme is such a big deal on that too, because you can do so much. I'm excited for this because I don't think they've had a legit kick-ass book, and it looks like I think that this is going to be big. You know,
Well, they've never had a
again,
book, right? I don't think in any edition they've really been
no, they've
great.
just been they've
Noise Marines
always
have been
just been
great.
well, they've all just been in the main chaos book. Emperor's Children has always
Yeah,
been
yeah,
Jonathan
correct. Yeah,
chapters.
correct. Yeah. I'm hoping they get like some cool. I always wished that at some point Games Workshop would start to make a new unit or some new units for
Well,
some of these armies. I
well,
think Thousand
they
Suns got a lot of
yeah,
that love. Like they got
yes.
their own version of Terminators. They got their own version of mutants slash
Yeah,
demons
well, they also
that are
got those
specific
side
to Thousand
units, the
Suns. Yeah.
Zangors, the
They
Zangor
got the
Light with
Zangors and all that
shamans.
stuff. There's a lot of flavor for Tzeentch. Tzeentch got a lot of flavor. The World Eaters Codex came out, and you have like a bunch of World Eaters units now, right? Like the Jackals are different, right? You got the 8-bound, you got the Exalted 8-bound. I really want this Emperor's Children book to have Emperor's Children units, something that is more
I
that
also want
direction.
stuff to not be in there. I know that's not as big of a deal, but it's okay if you don't have all the same shit because they're supposedly not going to have some of the tanks and whatnot. Use your special shit as opposed to the thing that uses this. No, like the Chaos guys come with their own specific feel. I love armies that have their own flavor, basically spicy taste there. You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
want them, and with Emperor's Children, you want them to have the noise marines and their variants and stuff. I want their hand to hand to be crazy fast. You know what I mean? So like
Yeah. But before we
the
move on, we can't leave it here. We have to talk about probably, arguably, the greatest reason to like Fulgrim and from a lore standpoint. I know you know the battle he has with Ferrus Manus.
I feel like he got a victory because one
Yeah.
person came away
Yeah.
with a head and
A
one person did
flawless
not.
victory.
He
So,
did.
so that exact scene, for those who haven't gone yet, if you're a 40K fan and you like Warhammer 40K and you like it a lot, you need to go to Nottingham. You need to go to GWHQ. You need to go to what is that place called again? I can't even remember. Is it there's a name for that place? Like the main mecca
The
of
main thing, I don't know what it
Nottingham?
is. It's where they used to have all the games days.
Yeah, I like want to call it the bunker, but it's not the bunker. It's something else. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it's called these days. So the Citadel. Go to the Citadel. That's what I'm gonna call it.
The
That feels
Citadel.
right. That feels right. I don't know. So you go to Nottingham, go to GW headquarters, the Citadel, and they have a whole thing where it's a museum. So there's a place to play, there's a place to drink and eat, and there's a museum. There's also a store you could buy stuff like the codex and the tokens that Brad loves so much.
I
But
do
there's
love
a
that.
museum and there is a board. There is a display board behind glass that is the Istvan 3 battle. And it has like a whole spiraling mountain. And at the very, very top, they have the 30K Ferris Manus fighting the 30K Fulgrim in this thing with tanks and all the Emperor's children and all the Iron Hands. And it's just so, so cool. And it's like the pivotal moment of like Fulgrim, like really making that
Decision.
decision.
He's one of the few Primarchs that it was he didn't just get tricked. He got like lured, tricked. They tricked him and then he accepted it. They tricked him, then he accepted it. Like his path is all a bunch of decisions. They're all his fault. But like he gets kind of they put him in a decision and he's like, I choose evil. And they give him a decision, but he makes like little evils, little evil, little evils, and then it goes, I'm all in. Let's do this.
I think he was choosing always to secure his own position. I think he was always choosing about himself. I think that's
He
what it was. I
he
think
was
he
he
knew
was in
there
the
was
dark
no
at the
way to win any
well,
other way.
he was in the dark for a while. He didn't really understand completely the Chaos Gods and was
A lot
shitty
of
job.
I don't think everyone was fully, read in
I know, but like
on
I feel it's something it's like Mortarion got a rough deal. He's done some really shitty stuff since, but his whole like lure to chaos was whoops a daisy. Mortarion gave him the comical D&D
yeah.
fantasy, switcheroo, and you're like, oh, you're like, oh man. So he just pouted for 10,000 years, whatever. But like you've got certain people like Angron that are just like, yeah, he went to corn. Yeah, yeah, I got it. We saw that come.
Oh, yeah, Ingrid was 1,000% going that way.
Conrad's like, I don't even know what chaos is.
I
Was a
think
crazy person.
Angron was, like, told, "We're virus bombing Istvan 5 or 3, and you're gonna come down in the Hawk after to clean up." He's like, "Alright, sounds good."
Well,
He didn't even
well,
let it land. He
yeah,
jumped out
yeah,
mid-flight.
he's riding next to the missile. That's just how this
Yeah. So apologies in the segue. Let's get back to the rules like you were talking about. I think you were mentioning poison in some of the
No, well,
leaks.
if their army rules, cool. At least what's leaked. All right, we're going full leaks on this one. Thrill Seeker is the name of it, which, by the way, that's cool as shit. They can advance in charge and fall back in charge with some restrictions. But like that's freaking big, man. That makes your army goes fast, boom, boom, fast. That's Bobby. That's Ricky Bobby fast. You know what I mean? On like everywhere.
Bobby.
But they have a lot of weird things that I think it's because everybody wants their personal glory. You can't charge an enemy with more than one of your units that advance. Like if two units advanced and use their rule, they both can't do the same target. I think that's a lot of because of the fact that their army they want the most excess, the most everything. So they've also got a new unit. Their handy hand unit is Flawless Blades, which is super cool. And they all kind of have that Lucius feel to them in their models in a unit. 8-inch movement, 3 attacks that critically wound on a 3, don't have devastating, but they can basically wound it. Being able to wound anything on a 3 is banana. That's
Yep.
true. You're just taking this unit, man.
Well, this is the kind of stuff I was talking about earlier. Like, I'm really hoping that the Codex gets that flair.
Yeah. But I mean, having guys that are super fast that are not super overpowered, because if they're only doing 2 damage or whatever and 3 attacks, it's not like super unbelievably OP, but it means they can kind of go into whatever the hell they want. And
Yeah.
that's with a name like awesome name, Flawless Blades, having the ability to be able to attack effectively anything on the board is a big deal because most units I fight infantry, I fight tanks, I have a lot of attacks to fight trash. Having
And
like
and both of us know, like, how important it is just to make someone roll. Like, you
100%.
don't necessarily always need, like, the huge rend. So I wouldn't be surprised if these guys actually do come out and they have the 3+ to wound crit, and they're, like, damage 2, but they're, like, rend is one maybe, or no, or maybe nothing. I'm not sure, but just a
Yeah,
ton of dice, just all the
yeah,
dice.
agreed. I'm assuming they're going to be 3 wounds, chosen style, chosen, possessed, things of that nature. All of those have
Yeah,
three
I'm also
wounds.
assuming the hero in the squad's gonna have the rend. Like there'll be a dude with like a lash whip or something.
For their sword weapons. You know what I mean? So
True, true, true.
I'm not sure about that. Um,
Maybe they'll
uh,
have like the lustful soul eating blade.
Sounds like that
Causes
the new
just
Lucius is going to lead that unit. So it's
yeah,
going
new
to be
Lucius better be costed appropriately and fun.
yes,
Those are my
100% right.
requirements. I miss challenges and stuff, like, that cool. I don't know.
Where you can pull people apart.
Do you ever miss initiative?
Okay, got to get my chi together.
I kinda miss initiative.
I miss the shift so much.
I f
Shock.
I feel like it's weird to talk about Emperor's Children without initiative. Like, for so many years, it's like, "Oh, the Emperor's Children, yeah." So, like, Initiative 6? Yeah. It's
Yeah.
like, "Oh, okay. They're
Well,
going
no.
for
Think
everything."
about people like this. You get charged by some lumbering brute. You're like, so we got to let him attack?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's in the rules, man. He charged us. I'm so fast. He can't do anything about it. Now, just
I mean, the game is much more simple now. It's, like, less
I
stats
know,
to
but
remember
just
and stuff,
but like
but,
that,
like
you're like,
I don't know if that's true, though. I think they complicated the game with other stuff. So it's still really complicated, it's just different kind of complications, but yeah, it's interesting. Like, when you brought up Lucius, I'm like, "Oh, he's probably like I8." That's just where my brain goes, and I'm like, "Oh,
it's
way
funny.
removed from the game."
So all their detachment rules were all over the place. So I don't want to go into them because I don't think they're going to be. I think they're going to have dark packs ish. You know what I mean? They're going to be very, very fast.
I think
That's
they're
your
gonna have
army,
the ability to get out of vehicles after the vehicle moves.
or at least somebody will.
I think Noise Marines in a Rhino, Rhino moves, Noise Marines get out, and they can fire, and then maybe they even have a strat to move after firing. I could see something like that, like speed. The army has to have speed, not just speed to charge, not just run and charge. They have to have a bunch of other like Emperor's Children really should feel like Eldar. It should feel similar
The
to
biggest
Eldar
thing is
movement.
I want thrill seekers. I want noise marines. I want Slaanesh demons. I want an army that has shit that other people do not have.
I want this to have headhunters.
Yeah, just any. I'm
Slaanesh should
just
have
saying.
headhunters.
Yeah.
When you
Well,
kill the enemy character, something great
but
happens
I'm
for
saying
you.
like the units though, they should have
Yeah.
different units. You shouldn't just go. It's chaos. I love the fact that they have a unit that is different. It's thrill seekers. They have a unit that's different. It's noise marines. Give me more of that shit.
I want some
Yeah,
unique demons in the Slaanesh Codex that only Slaanesh
they
have.
already confirmed Chillax is going to
Yeah,
in the
but
codex.
Shalaxi's Shalaxi. I want like a
Dude,
new cast. I want
bangs,
a
dude.
new I know that. I'm just saying, like, I want a new cast of like some other type of demon. I don't know, like make it look like a lemur or something. I don't know.
New Slaanesh demon.
Completely Slaanesh, something like, I don't know, go off of the Seekers, take the chariots, take something there, make something new, some kind of like Slaanesh like beast. I feel like there's something there. You know what would be amazing? Honestly, a flyer.
Man,
I know you hate
I'm
flyers. I
already
know you hate
done with
flyers
you.
because of game mechanics, because of themes and stuff. Like it'd be really cool if Slaanesh had like, I don't know, like some kind of Drake, like some kind of like Slaanesh fire dragon thing.
T-
Be cool.
I just like to see more just straight up Slaanesh shit. Like you're chaos, so you should have access to every single 5 million units the chaos had. Same thing they do with brains. No, man.
Well,
Here's
it's
the
not
shit
just
that's
that.
available to you.
It's not just that. I also don't like rinse and repeat. So like,
Right.
okay, like they're gonna get like it's. I understand some of rinse and repeat is good, but honestly, if we really want to talk about it, the flawless blades are just their version of, chosen. That's what they are. They're like Slanesh chosen,
I'm okay with that
right?
though.
I am okay with
It
that
does
too, but
don't
I don't think that solves the actual thing you want, right? Like if
kind
they get
of,
these infractors
but
and the
they have
infractors are basically like Space Marine scouts,
but you gotta have
okay,
certain
cool.
things. They're corrupted. They have over 10,000 years of corruption in them. In doing Slanesh shit. These are followers of Slanesh.
I'm
Have the
all
same
for
shit as
that.
Ish.
I'm all for that. I just think we need to have, or we should have, or GW should be thinking about having at least one like 40K new unit that isn't like other units, isn't like just a new skin, and one demon unit that isn't a new skin, right? Like that Mutilix beast thing in the Thousand Suns, that's a
Vortex
cool
Beast.
idea. The
Yes.
Vortex beast. That was like that came out for Thousand Suns specifically.
Oh, Line of Zangors is super cool too. I
There you
mean,
go.
saying you can have some shit like that, but I think they're doing a good job with. I do like the fly, so they're going to be their own version of Chosen. I'm okay as long as they put their own stank on it. I think that's cool. I
Yeah.
think that they should have. They should have some whack ass version of cultists that are something else. Pleasure
You know that
seekers or something.
you know the harp chick? The chicken with the harp? Is that an
The
AOS
epitome.
model?
Oh no, you're talking about the epitome looks like that.
I'd love, like, a big
Think
guy
about it.
who's
Why
ripped
cultists?
apart a back of something and, like, pulled up his, like, lungs and, like, everything, and he's, like, playing it like an accordion or something like that. Like, make a new model like that, like a
I like
scary new
that.
model or something.
Hey, make I want a new model for new cultists. Like the world leaders have jackals, Thousand Sons have Zangors. Man, give Emperor's Children some sort of pleasure seeker cultists. You know what I mean? It's pretty easy to know why people want to worship Slanesh.
Yeah,
You are now a cultist of Slanesh. Make them fast, super weak, and have like a six of Fino pain or something because they're doing
it'd be cool to have, like, Hedonite warriors or something like that.
yeah, anything.
Yeah.
Have them be odd, have them be really fast, unbelievably have no save, but a feel no pain. You know what I mean? It, it'd be like the opposite of a poxwalker, basically, fast poxwalker that is super not durable. You know what I mean? It's a little
Mhm.
more durable than normal, but it has a 6 up. These guys would just be almost dark Eldar looking as far as their clothing and stuff, because they just be pleasure seekers, weird Slanesh stuff. They're wearing, you know, bikini basically into war because they're so jacked up on drugs and everything. I'd love to
Like
see
that.
that. Like, don't have the
But
same
speaking of
old.
poxwalkers are a form of what would you say, like nastiness? Like what kind of nastiness do you think poxwalkers are? Like they're like a pestilent plague of just
What's
nonsense,
from
right?
the gross zombie?
Yeah, an unbelievably like what would the feeling be like if a poxwalker was in your stomach? How would
Okay.
you feel?
A poxwalker. Well, you would already been taken over because you're a resurrected dead. This is
Well,
one
if
of
you
the.
wanted to solve that, you would drink some Carl Jepsen Malorts.
I didn't
We
know.
got
Oh,
Carl Jepsen Chicago style
Malords.
Malorts. This is it's so good. Just sip it. Just sip it. Enjoy it.
You
This is
Chicago
it's good
people
stuff.
with your Malords.
This is wormwood. Wormwood. This is a barreled age Malort's bottle. And I will tell you from personal experience, a shot of Malort's a day keeps the doctor away.
Away.
And it keeps all of the poxwalker away, all of the Nurgle away, and you just live life like an awesome Slanesh exquisite specimen of just cleanliness. So Carl Jepsen's. I don't know if you could buy this everywhere actually. Brad, do you know if Jepsen's is
No,
like in
no,
Ohio?
I do not
Like if
know.
you go in a liquor store in Ohio, can you find Jepsen Malort's? I think
I,
yeah, I think it's everywhere.
I'm not 100% sure on Malords. The only time we have it is when you Chicago and Indiana people push Malorts on us, and we're like, I guess
It's fantastic.
you always have some.
I always have multiple bottles.
I think Chicago people are required by law. They pull you over and go, "Do you have Malorts at your house?"
What if I were to have a stomach ache and I didn't have it? What do I take? Pepto?
Sounds crazy. When you could just take
Lame.
Malorts.
Oh, that's the way to go. But anyways, Slanesh, very excited. Emperor's Children, very excited.
You know what one of the leaks? I don't know
Kind
if
of
it's
pumped.
actually true. The fact that they're saying that Blastmasters might have an 18-inch range, kind of like most of the Meltas and stuff are, and that's they used to have 48. I think if they made that like super devastating, but I would like to see them have multiple ranges, like a big
I think
Melta
it's
range.
18. I think it's 18 because I'm guaranteeing you they can go in a vehicle. The vehicle is going to have the ability to have extra movement. The squad's going to be able to get out of the vehicle. The squad's going to be able to shoot, and the squad's going to be able to move. So I
But I
think it's
but I
possible they're going to shorten the range.
I love short range-ish guns that are super powerful because if you shoot something very close to somebody, they can then do something back and it makes the game more interactive.
I think the Blastmaster can go up to strength 12, like -3 rend,
I would love to see
D6
it.
plus
Yeah.
1.
Yeah, they
I
can,
think it could
but
be really strong.
I like the ability for those. If you're gonna shoot a big guns, I hate shit that's like a 9. And there's long range firepower's fine, but like the most devastating guns, I love when they're up close and personal.
I like having variation though. Like that close up dangerous gun would be cool. Like if the Blastmaster was like 18 inches, 2 shots, not D3. I hate D3. 2 shots at 18, strength 12, -3, and then like D6 plus 2 or D6 plus 1 damage. I know it's going to be random damage because it always is. They're not just going to give us the flat 4, which is what we all pray for. But then
Victor
they have
damage.
the other, I would say they have another one where it's 36-inch range, maybe like 2 D6 shots, strength 4, something like
Yeah,
that.
picking up
No
trash
rends.
or away.
They both ignore cover though, no matter what.
Both sense on that too. They're
Yeah.
both sound-based weapons too.
Yeah, they're sonic weapons, right?
Yeah,
So all
they
the sonic
disperse.
weapons are gonna ignore cover. So,
I'd
I
be
think it's
super
cool.
cool with this.
so underrated right now in the game. Just getting in the test games for Adepticon lately, like, I've been realizing, like, whoa, like, everything has cover, and that's just annoying. Like, so annoying.
I I'm gonna rant. You ready for my rant? I gotta get home. I gotta channel my chi, my focus, because it is so insane right now that you always have cover. Dude, if you're a big creature or a tank or anything else and you don't have cover, you screwed something out because all you have to do is have the tip of your tail or your gun or something slightly behind a building. If your opponent can't see the whole model, you get cover. Even if it's the tip of your tail, you're like, dude, you're right there. I got cover, man. You didn't see the very tip of my tail, the tip of this gun bull. It's so easy. It's like if a leaf blows by the battlefield, all of a sudden you get cover from my las cannon. Cover saves should be because you're in cover. It used to be. Remember in the day, if you wanted a cover save on a big creature, on a creature, a vehicle, a monster, something like that, you had to have at least 50%, period. Couldn't see it. That makes sense. The
They've been
rule,
trying to
hold
get
on.
away. I understand what they're doing. I don't agree with it, right? But that's because I'm biased. I'm clearly biased. I never minded the interaction part of the game, even when it was argumentative in some ways. Like, I liked scatter dices and deciding how many guys were under a template. I didn't mind. I also loved the idea of arguing about which armor facing am I looking at.
The minority
Fine.
vote.
I was fine with all that stuff, right? I never had a problem with that. I always thought it was a part of the game. So I think cover's the same thing. Like, you'd have the same argument. Like, oh, that's not 50%. You know, you'd be playing certain people and like a smidge of their model was blocked, and you'd argue for like 5 minutes. That
Then just
used
say
to be
you
a part
happen
of
to
the
be in
game.
cover.
They got
You know
rid
what I
of it
mean?
all. Just got rid of everything.
They should be things that are above and beyond. Like, oh man, that's awesome that they also do that, as opposed to they know that everybody's in cover. You start doing the AP on your weapons, the armor penetration, and you just assume that your opponent has cover most of the time, unless he's just standing in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, like AP1, no ignore cover is basically useless.
Yeah, it's just what they're safe. Yeah. It's just, it's crazy. If you're in cover, great. If you're standing in that building, you're shooting out, yeah, you get covered. Makes sense. If
Yep.
you're one guy is, can barely be seen, whatever. I cover's too easy. Cover's a great mechanic because yes, you should get a benefit to your save. If you have intervening terrain between you and the hail of bullets that's coming at you,
Yeah, cover
you
used to be harder to game, harder to play
yes,
correct. And now it's just a free thing. What, in your opinion, I think I have an idea on what I would say is a skill that still requires a lot of polishing. And I think top tier players probably do this, but I think everyone should do this and get used to doing this. And since
yes.
cover isn't a thing anymore, right? You just have cover. You just exist in the ether of terrain, whether it's WTC or GW or whatever. You're just getting cover all the time. So forget about cover. And we talked about a lot of other aspects about deployment and army list building. But I think something that goes overlooked quite often, and when I watch 40K being played, which I don't watch all the time, but when I do watch, I don't see enough pre-measuring of of like your final placement of your models and also during your opponent's turn. Like, I feel like a lot of people, when they move their models, they don't always take into consideration the proximity of their final resting place of their
Spacing.
turn and the spacing between them and their opponent now after they've moved. And I think that is so important. And I'll come at it from a bias perspective. You can come, or not, maybe not a bias perspective, but I would say a negative perspective. I'm curious what your thoughts are. Real quick, my negative thought is people don't move correctly, whether it's intentional or not intentional. So when you are playing against someone who has a unit that moves, I don't know, like 8 inches, let's say, and you're like, I want to make sure they cannot charge me. So you want to be outside of that 20.1. You want to ask, hey, is there any way you can run and charge? Is there any way you can get any extra movement and charge? No, there's no way. Okay, cool. And then you can move your unit. And then when you're done moving your unit, feel free to either tell your opponent or not tell your opponent. Up to you. But measure that. Like, when you finally put your
You're gonna
unit
measure that
down,
there first.
figure out how far. Well, I always measure first. I think a lot of people measure first. People forget to measure after.
After
And
you
also
gotta,
people forget to measure when they pass the turn. So when I pass my turn, if I see you starting to move your models, I'm pulling out my tape measure. I want to know exactly how far you are before that model moves in some instances, especially if I think it's going to be important. I'm checking it so that I can just use simple math to make sure that there is no shenanigans with the way that my opponent is actually moving. And I
Well,
think that's a really good skill.
you have to have a conversation with it too, though, because I'm letting you agree. Okay, cool. I'm outside. And or if you have a potential for a charge, what is it? You know what I mean? I'm 18 inches away. I have to make a 10-inch charge. We both agree that if you move to here, it's 10-inch charge. Do we all agree?
That
Great.
sometimes I just want to see the character of the person I'm playing. So I'll measure it without saying anything, and then I'll see what kind of game we're playing. And then I'll just adjust my tactics.
You're willing to argue more than I am.
So
I'm so willing to leave with my wine and go,
I'm like, oh, so you made the charge in an 8. Yeah, I made the charge in 8. I rolled an 8. It's right here. Oh, okay, cool, 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 cool. And then meanwhile, I know the math is like just not there to support that. This is also about your strategy. Keep in mind, like, I think you'll back me up on this a lot. You have a lot more experience with this than I do right now. But placement of transport vehicles next to obscuring terrain and placement of units that are hiding and obscuring but have an ability to get to an objective, and placement of the way you charge or the way you're planning a charge in relation to objectives. Those three categories, super important. You want to know if anything happens to this unit or this vehicle, can I get out? Do I have the movement to get out? And where can I get? Can I clear the wall, right? Enough so that I'm safe.
Can
If
I
I
clear
if
the
I
wall?
need to get
Can I
an
get to the
objective,
objective?
can I get
Yeah,
to it?
is something. If you charge me here, and it's a lot of times that you want to make it so defensively, you know, measure your stuff beforehand. Oh, if you charge me here, I'm going to make it so your model doesn't fit, between this tank and this wall.
Figure out what your goals are and work backwards.
Yeah. And the thing is, it's important that you measure your own stuff. One of the biggest things is measure out what you're going to do before you start moving models. So you know that your plan actually can physically be.
And measure your deployment before you deploy a unit
Well,
too.
you should already know exactly what you're going to do before you start putting stuff out. I do this constantly. I'm just like, and I'm not trying to be a dick about it, but I'm like, I'm just going to deploy. Your deployment kind of means nothing to me. Your forward, you have to put out, your forward deployers and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Yes. But like, if you and I are playing, I'm not just going to stand out in the middle of nowhere and go, hope I go first so I'll get shot in the face.
What's the percentage of tables at a tournament if you go to a tournament with 100 tables and so it's 200 players and you were to walk around on deployment for before turn 1 and you walked around the entire tournament of 100 tables still today with the internet, with all the advice you have from all these, third party companies or these companies that work to provide advice, how many tables, Brad, do you think there is a unit out in the open doing nothing?
More than half. Like
and
the winner
would not need to be there. Like, what is your guess on how many tables still do that?
More, half or more. And I'm going to give you the thing that's almost worse is when you deploy so turtle that you can't reach any of the objectives. There's that Goldilocks cell. You got to pre-measure your movement, their movement. It's so silly to me that you don't know how far your opponent's stuff goes. Just ask them. It's a social game. If I don't understand what you have on the table, I'll just ask what it is. How far can you go? Can you go farther than if I have the app up and it says you go this far? Can you make that farther? Do you have more, what can you do? Because I'm going to plan based on how far you're going to plan. It's all about spacing. You think about it like fighting, you know what I mean? How much distance can you cover? You probably a lot more than me. I'm probably not going to try to work the jab against Alan because he can punch me out of frame.
Yeah. Also, I feel like it's really important when you're doing all this measurement, this pre-measurement, and you're planning out the turns too, because you can decide the strategy of when to commit and when to move a lot more relative to the current score, right? You want to do something too early, right? Yep. You want to do the move too early. You've put yourself in the right position. You've measured. You've done everything we've said, and you're nailing it, right? And your opponent knows that you're nailing it. And your opponent's also patient now because your opponent's waiting for you to commit, or you're waiting for them to commit, right? Play the game with the score in mind. Keep that score in mind. Don't be like Brad, get to turn 5 and disagree with the score with your opponent, and your opponent thinks it's 95 and Brad thinks it's 96 or something like that. Don't do that. Get your score figured out every single turn.
Well, that's I 100% agree. And one of the big things I see people do all the time that's wrong is you don't know your score. So you don't know if you're winning, continue to win.
Just sit.
Well, that's a big deal. Well, you have a problem with that. One of us here needs to go everywhere.
Well, I don't win, I lose.
Yeah, exactly.
One or the other.
I'll just keep getting my shitty wins.
Let's be honest right now. If I went to a tournament right now, I would get all zeros. So it's not happening anymore. But the old
It's
me would be trying to get 100.
to do. Everybody's going to make a mistake, period. I don't care if you're the best player in the universe or you're the worst player in the universe. You have to have pre-measured that you can interact with their bad moves. If somebody puts themselves too aggressive, if they go too passive, if somebody plays you too passive, don't do shit. Just stand on objectives and run up points. If they play you too aggressive, let them extend out and into your traps and start killing stuff. But you have to
Yeah.
have measured out where they can go, where you can go, and start understanding that spacing between your units and their units. And especially onto the objectives. You have to be able to go,
Yeah.
if he stands on an objective, what am I doing about this? That has to
Correct.
be before you start doing stuff.
And
You
I
have to
can
go,
tell a real life example, right? The year that we played Custodes at Adepticon, turn 5 against Clark Walsh's team, Elliot and I are playing on our table, and you and Mitch were killing it. And we knew that this was the tournament. This was it. Like, we had to win this round. So I think it was like turn 3 or something like that. And I'm just like, Elliot, let's full send. Let's full send. I really wanted to like just send up the Custodes, get in there, get tight in combat, win combats, and go forward. And we were playing a pretty competitive at the time Eldar army. It was pretty scary. They had a lot of really good stuff that could really like do a lot of damage to us. And we were playing very much cat and mouse. They would put something on an objective, but we would deal with that in a way where it was the least amount of stuff to lose. And it's turn 3, and I go, let's full send. Elliot goes, no, why? And I'm like, what do you mean? Let's go win. And he's like, here's the current score. And he put it on the paper. And I'm like, okay, yeah, that's right. He's like, if we do nothing, here's the score next turn. If we do nothing again, here's the score next turn. You guys were going first. So you guys did full send. I saw your table, and it
yes,
worked
we
out for you.
did.
It worked out for you. On our table, though, we had bottom of turn. And bottom of turn, as everyone knows, is, well, especially back then, before they like try to,
Okay.
get things a little bit more even, bottom of turn was really strong. So Elliot was showing me that we were down like 5 or 6 points maybe on turn 5. But with bottom of turn, he's like, if we have this unit, and this unit still alive, this is our score. And I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, let's just sit. Like, it was
It's
so clear. And Clark, being one of the best players ever, top of 5, is like, I thought I'd get you to commit. You guys won. And he just calls it because he knows. He already knew everything Elliot knew.
there's nothing you can do.
There's nothing he can do.
That's
So,
the big problem in 40K right now. Depending on the terrain you're playing on, like if you're playing on a lot of the standard GW boards, second turn versus 2 really good players, the person that goes second has such a bananas edge on that because you get to watch me play my last turn and you can't do shit about it because I score my objectives. They gotta let that go. Objectives
I
get
just
it.
think, I think you solve. I think you bring back random game length. 4, 5, 6, it goes to 6.
I like because
And
it,
1,
it
2,
means
3, it doesn't.
you
And
can't
then
just go kind of thing.
yeah, it's a total different story. It
Yeah,
gives the game
because
one
you
more
wouldn't
turn.
full think about it right now at the bottom of
You could full
no,
send
no,
on
no.
6.
But I'm just saying right now, at the bottom of 5, if you're the second player, you push all of your shit wherever you feel like. You
Yeah.
don't even care if you're every one of your units is legitimately sitting in the open, no cover, no anything.
So what do you do if it's only a 50% chance the game ends? How do you do that now? Like, do you still full send? Do you half commit? Like, what do you do?
I love that.
That's the
It
cool part of
makes
the
you
game.
you have
Yeah.
decisions now, but
Yeah.
you could also get punished. You just YOLO in and it goes another turn.
Because there's so many games where the score is like, 77, 63. And then the guy with 63 has got bottom. He's just waiting. Full commits, gets that 15-point jump. And all of a sudden it's like, 82, 678 or something like that, right? He just jumps over, leapfrogs the score. But if you don't know the game is ending, it's much harder to do that. Much
100%.
harder.
Because he could go, oh, I have a 1-point win. You're like, nope, it win another turn. Now you're gonna have to get buried. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So you're gonna get a 0 on your turn because you got no models. I like that a lot more because of the fact you don't get to just use your units willy-nilly. There has to always be a pros cons to anything you do. You know what I mean? So I'd like to
Yeah.
see more of that. 100%. I love that. I love that you brought that up on that because it's a big deal. Because I really do think that second turn became too powerful. And I never thought first turn was such a big deal.
It is on
Certain-
planet bowling ball terrain, but that
Well,
doesn't
yeah.
exist
Well,
anymore.
yeah. I mean, certain missions, like if you have super aggressive armies, like you have a war leaders and search and destroy kind of thing. Yes, first turn's good for them on that. You need to have 4 deployers. I like the fact that they made the most aggressive armies not have 4 deployers. War leaders, Legion of Excess. None of them, all of them have huge scouts. Put somebody think in front of them, then they can't scout. Of course, obviously they kill whatever you put in front of them, but they're
Yeah.
not on top of you It gives you a chance to do stuff.
Yeah, some of the grossest stuff in the past has been like, I can take 30 dudes, put it right in front of your face, and then also move up the entire board.
Now,
And it's like,
that's when
oh,
first turn's a big deal. You know what
I
I
don't
mean?
know what we're
When I
like.
was
Yeah,
playing
I think guard had a time where they had like, I just surround you with horses. I move all my guys, move, move, move. I have the
think
whole
about
board. I pin
old
you.
like 8th edition chaos when you
Yeah.
brought
Oh, eighth
the
edition chaos
cultists
and
and
the
just went
Zangors. Zangors could
Zagor
teleport round
Zagors could
one and then
teleport, but a 40-man
move up.
cultist blob
Yeah.
could just basically show up and go, "I'm
Yeah.
right on top of you. Enjoy never moving again."
Yeah. You got wrecked at ATC with that.
No,
And one
I
of your things
crushed.
got not
No,
one
no,
game,
no.
one game you got messed up.
Now that was a different year with a different thing. And that was because I did not listen to Robert Downey. Instead of just playing the game, I got real mad that something didn't die. And I beat my head so hard against a wall. I was like, I could snatch defeat from the jaws of victory.
I think that's the last point I'll make. You just touched on another really good thing people need to always keep in mind. Dice are dice.
Play the
Dice
game.
are dice. Just keep playing the game. There are some players that will not quit a game no matter what happens. And there are other players that the moment the dice have a single roll that is not statistical, they shut down completely. Like when the math
100%.
doesn't work, they're just like, well, I lost this because of the dice. No, you lost because you just right now gave up.
You get pulled in. That game was a bad game for me, but it's funny because it's one in whatever thousands of games I played.
Yeah, I
And the
know
thing
that.
typically you have to think to yourself, what's the score? I can't tell you the amount of games I've won where it looks like I've got my head kicked in. One of my favorites is one of my buddies that doesn't play 40K came to see me I was playing at a random tournament. He's one of my friends. That means he wants to talk shit to me. So he walks up and I looks like I'm getting wrecked. My opponent's got like a million models and I have like four of them. And he walks up, he's like, oh, shit's going bad for Brad. My opponent just goes, he's actually winning by like 38 right now. He's like, what? And I had just been scoring, killing. He's scoring. You don't get
Yeah.
Nobody gives you
Yeah.
a sticker for killing shit.
So I think Mitch has the record on this. Mitch Tucker got, I think, like a 20-0. I think he max winned an event, a tournament game, one tournament game, like round 2 of a tournament. He did not kill a single model.
I love it.
He didn't kill one model. I think his whole army died almost. It was like Eldar versus Grey Knights at the time. This was several editions ago, probably 6th. And he did not kill one model, not a single one. And he won the game by a landslide. And I know that sounds stupid right now because, like, in all of the rules right now, you have to kill stuff. But these missions were different back then. It was all about objectives.
It was all
And it was a progressive mission. This was back when like we had like the ITC/Nova styles, and this was a Nova style. So it was a progressive mission. So you were getting points every turn. There wasn't like this big sweeping points at the end. It was every single turn. And because he was Eldar, he was just able to be everywhere, get all the points. He had like all the stuff you should have. But it's so interesting to think about the fact that, it's like that guy who won a Fortnite game without moving. Like he dropped in a tree or something. I don't know. And he ended up winning the Fortnite game without moving. I don't know if you know that story. It's a sick
I do
story.
not.
Yeah. So really cool stuff. Very excited. So, but anyways, that's it for today's chapter on the Chapter 416 podcast. We thank you guys for listening. Hopefully you got a couple of gems out of today's podcast episode. Feel free to help us out with the algorithm and just really quickly hit the thumbs up button and like the show. If you want to subscribe as well. If you want to subscribe, you'll get to know when our episodes come out. And then if you want to, support the show in any way, feel free to join our Patreon and help us out. So thanks a lot. My name is Pajama Pants. That is Brad Chester.
This guy.
And we are out.